Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk everything animation here, including Frozen and all its affiliated controversies, which we'll be getting into right now. I am Melanie Moyer, and today I'm joined by Sam Quattro.
Hello.
Michelle Anderer.
Hi.
And Beatriz Mourad.
Hello.
And today we're discussing the highly topical, recent, but also not so recent developments, on Frozen 2, which, yes, is happening. For those of you.
You sound so excited, Mel.
Milk that cash cow.
This is a thing that is happening.
It's a juggernaut of a franchise for Disney, for sure, since they've also got a Broadway show. So it's all just feeding into itself. It's like a black hole. That
a nice money black hole.
Big, nice.
$1 billion worth of black hole.
It's a good black hole to have. But yeah, we're discussing specifically a recent article that appeared on Huffington Post, specifically related to A Wrinkle in Time, but it took a turn, when, the interviewer asked, Wrinkle in Time writer Jennifer Lee, who is also the writer and co-director on Frozen and Frozen 2, about the hashtag GiveElsaAGirlfriend campaign that popped up in 2016. You can find out more about this podcast at overlyanimated.com. You can subscribe to us on iTunes at overlyanimated.com/iTunes to search Overly Animated on your favorite podcatcher. So, basically, what happened was this.
Give us the breakdown.
Yeah.
So the most recent thing essentially was Jennifer Lee, the writer for A Wrinkle in Time, which I have not seen yet, just for the record. I hear nice things, was asked about, what she thought about this, this like campaign topic, whatever you want to call it, where they were saying, Elsa's a prime candidate to make the first openly gay Disney character, to which she said, quote, I love everything people are saying and people are thinking about with our film, that it's creating dialogue, that Elsa is this wonderful character that speaks to so many people. It means the world to us that we're part of these conversations. We're going with it. We have tons of conversations about it, and we're really conscientious about these things. For me, Elsa's every day telling me where she needs to go, and she'll continue to tell us. I always write from character out and where Elsa is and what Elsa's doing in her life. She tells me every day, we'll see where we go. First of all, use Elsa's name more in a single paragraph, I dare you.
Elsa.
She's a real girl.
In case you forgot her name. That was like an SEO article. That was like keyword dropping is what that felt like. So basically the first thing I want to do is just go around the horn and like general reaction thoughts to this entire debacle. Obviously I'm going to start with Sam.
Make her gay! Like, what's, obviously there's like, we can't have the movie in this country, blah, 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 all that BS they try to pull with like television stuff, but just make her gay. Like, come on. It's time. It's 2018. Let's just do it. You're not gonna make progress by just sitting with your hands under your butt, not doing anything.
Definitely not under your butt. No progress there.
Yeah, correct. Physically, factually, objectively.
Yeah, and like, if you're just gonna talk around the subject, like, whatever, like, if you're not gonna at least try, like, maybe just hint a little bit, like, oh, here's this woman in the wings, I wonder what she's doing there, like, what's the point, Like, the people are asking for it. It's time for a gay Disney princess, dude, or gay Disney queen, rather. Somebody, anybody.
Somebody gay.
There should be a new movie just called Disney's The Woman in the Wings.
Exactly.
See where it goes, the plot.
The animated version of Carol. Michelle, what were your thoughts?
This part of the article actually made me really annoyed because it felt like the broadest, way to, somebody who, really, really wants this to happen can point to and be like, see, look, she's thinking about it, but also kind of oh, no, I said, I love what everyone's talking about, and, we'll see the direction the character goes, and, what feels right for her, and that could change a lot. I mean, if she ends up not being a gay icon, we could just argue, well, I spent a lot of time with this character, and it just didn't feel like this was her story. And, no one's gonna give her pushback for that, so I just, I'm very I'm very cautious, and I don't know. I feel like I've seen enough, like, queer representation done well in other animated media directed at children that I don't honestly think I'd be content if there was just, like, a lady friend she had that she never smooched and, like, gave one look one time that people have to latch onto as their representation. Like, if that's what it's gonna be, I feel like we can do better. So I don't have a lot of, and again, this is like a huge franchise. Like, there's so much money in this. I don't feel like they're gonna risk it for anything overt. Later. Yeah, I'm afraid they won't get into anything overt, and I feel like why not be overt enough as a smooch at least? So
as gay as possible.
I am very, like, I don't know if I want to throw around the word queer baiting, but, like, I am very, like, cautious of this. Mm-hmm. This whole thing coming from, like, Lee. And I like Lee as a writer, but, like, it just feels like such an open-ended statement. It doesn't feel like it has very much weight to it because of that.
Yeah. Beatrice.
I mean, I don't want to be that person.
Go ahead.
It's a good start.
I'm going to be that person. What the heck is she supposed to say to this question? If she says no, she's seen as she's going to get bashed for being either homophobic or not risky enough. If she says yes, then that spoils the movie. What is she supposed to say to this? The only answer she can give is a non-answer. And I just hate these type of like things happening because it's purely made by fans to get either their hopes up or to read into things. And it's like, let her tell her story. Let the story be. We know that Frozen is $1 billion property. We know that this is not, look, I just personally, I'm like, this is not the movie they're gonna make a gay character of. Like, Elsa, as much as she can be a queer icon just because of Let It Go, sure. 100%. But I don't see this as queer baiting. I see this as someone who doesn't want a PR nightmare for being asked a question. And it's just, I don't know, for me, it's just really frustrating to see this because as someone who just wants this representation, I also understand that Disney cares about money. It's a business and they want the $1 billion. You know where we may get this? We may get it in a brand new IP where we get a gay character. 100% I'm like, ooh, maybe that might happen here. I don't mind demanding representation. We have to have it. You know, when Star Wars announced that Jon Favreau was the showrunner for its new TV series, people were pissed off about the fact that it wasn't a woman or a person of color. I don't mind these type of talks because if we don't talk about it, then it's never going to happen, right? So I don't mind that. But I also don't understand why this is seen as queer baiting when all she's doing is answering a question that was given to her and she didn't even pose. So it's like, I don't want to be this person, but at the same time, it's like, come on, people, like, calm down. Let her write her movie. Like, she has
There's a joke I'm not going to make. I'm just going to, well,
yeah. What are you going to do?
I was going to say it by accident. I'm not going to just continue.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I just, I'm someone who's always going to be on the side of the artist wanting to tell their story. And she didn't know before that Frozen was going to be a big deal. Disney didn't know that Frozen was going to be a big deal. They were so they were so not prepared for the big deal that Frozen became. They didn't have the merchandise ready when Frozen came out because they weren't marketing this movie. They thought it was not going to succeed as it did. So she wasn't expecting people to be like, oh, Elsa's gotta be gay. She didn't expect it. So what is she supposed to do? Be like, oh no, this is terrible. This is a complete misreading of my character. No, she's just gonna tell her story. And if Elsa's gay because if Elsa's gay, that's wonderful. 100% agree. But if she's not, I've gotten to the point where it's like, you know what? Like, it's fine. Like, Elsa, for me, it's like, it's fine. I know that this is too big of a property, and that's it.
All right.
I think that's very
fair.
fair.
Many sides of the argument here. I do have some of that stuff I will agree with and rebut against as we go through. As somebody who has worked for the Walt Disney Company and worked for the Walt Disney Company when Frozen came out, there's a lot there. But yeah, so, you know, and I agree that, you know, Jennifer Lee, she was going in to talk about A Wrinkle in Time and they threw this at her. That being said, she also had to expect it because of course they're not going to not ask about Frozen. And that became kind of a topic in 2016 when GLAAD gave Disney like an F rating, for representation. So people responded with that hashtag, GiveElsaAGirlfriend. So, both Idina Menzel, who voices Elsa in the movies, and I want to say her name's Cassie Levi, but something tells me she might pronounce it Casey. I probably should have figured that out. Levy, who plays her on Broadway, both like were supportive of it. Idina Menzel said, she said, "I'm excited about the conversation happening. I can't promise anybody what's going to happen. I'm a servant to a big company called Disney, and I'm happy to have a role and a job." But deep down,
so fair. Yeah.
am I really happy that it's causing people to talk about it and have these kinds of conversations? Yeah, I am. And then insert first name Levy said on Twitter, she retweeted the Huffington Post article with the comment, "Who knows? No right, no wrong, no rules for me," and a rainbow emoji. So they're in favor of it, and that's nice because of they're actresses, of course they are. So first thing about this is, why do people think Elsa's gay, right? Like that's I think the first thing to cover, because like if you look at it on the surface level, like there's really nothing there besides the metaphor, right?
And it's kind of like, oh, she doesn't have a love interest in the movie. She must be gay. Right. Like they did the same thing with Brave, like a year or two before.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the thing, right? It's like, there's nothing in there that indicates that she's anything, because she literally does not pay attention to anyone except for Anna. Like, that's it. And obviously her only other option for a dude was, tried to like stab her in the face, at the end of the movie. So I don't blame her for not being super interested in people. Spoilers. But, so yeah, there's nothing in there in terms of like content in the actual film that would lead anyone to think this, right? So I can see if the creators were caught off guard by it, why they would be caught off guard, because in their minds, that Elsa having a romantic relationship with anyone was not at all a thing. In, the early drafts of the film, when she was still the villain, it was part of her storyline that she was left at the altar and she froze her heart.
A woman scorned.
Yeah, obviously that got canned. So that's the closest we get, is that Elsa in one iteration of herself long ago was left at the altar, maybe. So the thing that people latched onto was the metaphor of Let It Go, right? And like the kind of blatant metaphor of, her upbringing, which was very much meant to be, I feel like it was like anyone can latch onto anything with it. I know that one of the creators, I believe it was Jennifer Lee, said that, her brother, who's, she was thinking of her brother during all of this because he's autistic. And she put that into the character, and people look at it and see themselves, as like, the introvert, the person who doesn't fit in. Like anyone can look at Elsa and see something about her that resonates with them. It just so happens that the gay community happens to be very vocal, and very aplenty on the internet. And, in everyone's defense, it does play to that very much. Like if you think about that song in that context, suddenly it's very hard to think about it in any other context. And it's, a question of, well, is that just how it happened, or was it intentional? Because, these are people that, Kristen Anderson Lopez is a veteran lyricist. Like, did she know what she was doing when she was writing this? Did they know what they were doing when they okayed it and said, okay, let's do this? Like, did they not know how people were going to react? I guess is my question.
Is Defying Gravity a gay anthem?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's like, it's basically the same exact thing.
Actually, I forget what year, but it was the main song at a New York Pride, in the mid 2000s. I forget which one.
I mean, you got Idina Menzel singing a song about, doing whatever, coming out of whatever it is.
Coming out of whatever.
Yeah, and it's of course, like, the metaphor is there. But I don't know, like, people write songs all the time that have hashtag secret metaphors that, like, they didn't really intend.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like, for
You're trying to
example,
think of
like,
one right now, aren't you?
yeah, say, there's, like, this one song that, you know, the gay community really latches onto. Say it's like a old song from, like, the 70s, right? You know, and it's supposed to be, like, a metaphorical thing, but it's done by, like, a female singer. I don't know. I don't want to say disco because that kind of was, like, a gay thing. I started with the gays.
It started out gay.
It did. It started
out
with
It only
gays,
got
bro.
gayer.
Yeah, but,
Yeah.
like, there's, like, a habit of doing that. Like, people like, Barbara Streisand, or Bette Midler, or, Madonna, etc.
Judy Garland, I was thinking.
Yeah, like, there's all these, like, you know, powerful women that, in particular, gay men, like, really identify with, and, you know, they'll, like, poke through their music and, like, see all the metaphors and see all the blah blah blah. So, you know, it could be a similar situation here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's you know, we're never gonna know because no one's ever gonna say what was intended or not. And you know, it's not the first time people have pulled metaphors out of Disney songs. Part of Your World is seen actually kind of not super mainstream, but there is a analysis of it, and specifically with Howard Ashman and where he was in his life and his role as a feminist, saying that, you know, Part of Your World is actually like a secret super feminist song because because nothing in the song actually refers to this Eric person that she's all about, because it's literally just about her wanting to go out and do something. And they specifically point to the line where she says, "I bet you on land they understand that they don't reprimand their daughters." And that Howard Ashman, who unfortunately passed away in the early 90s from complications with AIDS, was, you know, a huge feminist, and kind of saw this song as a moment to let Ariel have that feminist moment in what is otherwise not a super forward thinking feminist film.
Yeah, you know, fall in love with a dude you can't talk to in 3 days.
Fall in love with a dude you can't talk to. That's so right.
So,
but that's, you know, sorry.
No, go for it. What's up?
I mean, again, like so many people, like, for instance, I've always seen The Little Mermaid as kind of, I've always taken as a little, I've seen kind of this kind of trans narrative there, wanting to transform yourself to be accepted to be part of the world. In order to do that, you have to transform yourself. So, you know, like, Sam already said it, which is, I don't want to say what they were thinking, because art, that's the way art is. People see it and they respond to it. And I'm right now at a film festival and I'm hearing a lot of Q&As with directors, and a lot of people go up and ask them questions like, did you mean this when you did this in this movie? And they'll just say straight out, like, look, if you took that out, like, if that's what you took away from this movie, go for it. Like, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. But they don't ever flat out say, like, oh, yes, that's exactly what I meant from this. So, I mean, it's hard to ever truly say.
That's why we have, like, you know, English classes in high school and, you know, more advanced analytic classes later on, right? So that we can, sort of, like, see or, like, you know, question what the author's intent was. You know, that brings up, like, the whole question, like, after the art is in the world, does author intent really mean anything?
That's always what I come back to. Once you put something out there, you really can't claim the same kind of ownership to it, because it does kind of belong to everyone who can access it.
Which is why, in a situation with something this massive, you run into this big problem. Not that it's a problem, but
it's sadly a problem.
Complicated.
It has problems to it.
This is really complicated. But yeah, and I want to get into that in a little bit. But first, another thing that a couple people have been bringing up on Tumblr, because seems to be the only place that's willing to bring this stuff up, is, you know, everyone's focusing on, it was like, oh, Elsa's gay, Elsa's a lesbian, but, you know, what about other representation? Like, what about white people, or what, you know, like, something she might even fit into, like, you know, obviously, there's a spectrum here that if Disney was even entertaining this, that they would go down, and these other representations are unfortunately not it. But if we're going to be talking about this seriously, you know, a lot of people see her more as an ace character than anything else. And I think part of the narrative of the story really lends itself that to more than just flat out Elsa's gay, right? That's my reading of it anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I personally, like, I can, based on just the actual text we have, based on what we've seen from Frozen taking the film on its own, I mean, she's more ace than anything else. Like, she hasn't shown any attraction, so it's easier to assume, like, that she is ace than she is gay or straight or any of the other things that fall between those two.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, and like I said, there's very much how far is Disney going to go if they're going to go anywhere. They're not going to go that far.
No.
And I don't think some of these concepts are too complicated for kids, like people want to point out. But I do see how something like that is going to be too complicated for a Disney film.
I mean, you can pick how many ace representations there are, flat out ones, on one hand.
Yeah.
There isn't a lot. And I highly doubt a mainstream Disney film is gonna, bring up asexuality.
No.
If any sexuality at all, besides, straight, which of course, is the norm, but, anyway.
And that's my thing. It's not so much on Disney. It's the conversation that should be happening between fans and between people on the internet. It's not just Elsa's gay. No, she isn't. It's there's we who are educated people who are willing to have a conversation about this out in public should be looking at this with a bigger scope. We shouldn't just narrow in on this one, fairly at this point mainstream representation. Obviously there's still a long way to go for lesbian representation, even gay representation, but gay and lesbian representation has a lot more going for it than asexuals, bisexuals, non-binary people, trans people, etc. So that's a conversation just the internet should be having amongst itself, is my thing, more than me having an expectation of Disney to make an asexual character in Frozen. Olaf.
Oh,
yeah.
Olaf.
I mean,
I don't like Olaf, but that could be a thing.
No, Olaf is a snowman.
Correct. So snowmen don't deserve to be treated equally? No, I'm just kidding.
He can be treated equally in that respect.
That's the follow-up podcast.
He's more of a robot than a person.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. But that brings on, can robots have sex? I don't know. Can they?
Well, did you see Blade Runner 2049?
Exactly.
No,
we're coming into a future where robots may, demand equal rights. Who knows? It's a scary time.
It is scary. That scares me.
So the plot of Frozen 2 is that Olaf forms an uprising.
Yeah, the snowman uprising.
Declare himself the Snow Queen.
He commits regicide. Goodbye.
Oh my god. Yeah, he just kills Elsa, so, the question isn't even there.
Moment, she's his creator, so he, rises up and...
Oh my god, you guys. But she escapes, and we'll get the Anastasia from Disney we always wanted.
Oh my god.
Disney bought Fox, so...
That's true. So technically she's now a Disney princess, technically.
Oh, fun fact for you guys. That's off topic. So... Sam brought this up in her opening around the horn bit, is that one of the big reasons that Disney, and for the record, I'm not saying this is an excuse. This is just a reason. Objectively, this is why these things don't happen. The reason that Disney has a horrible track record when it comes to LGBTQ representation is that they have a huge foreign market. They make almost as much money internationally as they make domestically, and there's a lot of homophobic foreign countries that threaten to and have in the past banned their films for even hinting at the possibility of somebody being gay. When Beauty and the Beast, the live action film, came out last spring, and there was that kerfluffle about there being a quote unquote gay moment. That was its own that was its own buzzword of the summer, by the way, the gay moment, quote unquote, in Beauty and the Beast, which was basically just at the end, it was this guy ends up in female clothes, and he's like, yes, this is me, and he struts off in these women's clothes, and then later he dances with LeFou for literally half a second. You see it at the end. Because of this less than 5 seconds of screen time, Malaysia banned the film, and then once they finally showed it, they showed a censored version. And that was literally, there wasn't even dialogue. That's how short this little bit of scene was. And then the entire country banned the film.
But would they have, here's a question though, would they have banned it if they had even used it as PR for the film?
Right. So that's the thing. It's like, okay, like this, they tried to use it as, you know, as advanced, you know, promo for the film. And then that's all anyone could talk about because, you know, that's the idea is suddenly now, we all have to go see Beauty and the Beast for the gay moment. Like, and the director made it out to be a huge deal. Like, yeah, it's the first gay character in Disney. And I was like,
God.
Nothing happened.
They danced.
Oh God. So, you know, like, that's partially on Disney for trying to use that to stir up discussions. And they stirred up, you know, homophobia too. But, you know, so I get it. Like I get, you know, your foreign market, yada, yada. Here's my thing. And this is going to come into Mel's rant TM later on. Is that the number one thing to get people to pay attention to something is to get it banned or censored somewhere.
True.
Like, you look at the list of, like, top 10 most challenged books of all time. They also happen to be the top 10 most popular, most widely read books of all time. And this was a conversation I was actually having with a manager at work, because we work a lot with local schools, with getting them books. And we were talking about banned books and specifically, I forget what it was. I don't know if it was a Newbery winner or something, but it was some children's book that recently got, and by recently, I mean in the last 3 years, got some sort of flack for something. People were saying X, Y, and Z was in it and they didn't want their kids reading it. And it shot to the bestsellers because the way to get someone to pay attention to something is to say, well, you can't look at this.
That is literally what I did in school. I would always read, like, what the banned books were. And I would, go buy
Good
them.
for you, Sam.
Which I'm not going to say that works across the board, and that's a mentality we should be, you know, having in a proactive way here. But, you know, you can't be scared of those things either. Like, you can't say, what if Malaysia bans or what if the X country tries to censor a movie? It's like, well, then it happens.
I mean, I agree with you 100% on that. Like, that is the mentality humans have. I just don't think, like, we're talking about $1 billion here. This isn't like, I don't doubt, like, look, animated movies are going to cost a bunch when they're made by Disney. That's like, and I don't doubt that within the next 10 years, they're going to probably release, or maybe not 10, maybe 20 years, they're probably going to, because, you know, animated films say like 4 years, so it's not like every year or something. So, I don't doubt that they're going to release some sort of character that's going to give us the representation that we wanted to some degree. But I think it's going to be in a new IP where
I definitely agree with you, yeah.
You know, instead of risking the $1 billion property, they're going to risk the, say, $150 to $200 million budget and say like a third of that additional for like marketing purposes. Like they would rather risk like a quarter billion dollars than they'd risk an actual $1 billion. And on top of not even including merchandise the money they would make from that. So it's kind of like, yes, 100%. And that can happen with new IP too. New IP can be banned and then you can easily get it most viewed 100%. But when you're dealing with this quantity of money, like, and it's just, I just do not see them thinking, oh, well, it'll get banned and then that will make even more people see it. This movie already is going to have people seeing it. They don't have to worry about this movie being banned for people to see it. So it's just kind of like, you know, it's just, honestly, for them, it's just about the money now because they know they have the audience already. So for them to take risks, it needs to be a new property.
So I agree. Like, I honestly don't think this is going to be the place where we get this stuff. That being said, you know, and I guess I'll go into this now, unless anyone has something specific to say right now about the foreign markets and that issue. No? Okay.
Human rights.
Go ahead.
Great. So this is my thing, right? I was working at Disney when this movie came out. Nobody expected it to be as big as it was because it was literally the biggest thing that had ever happened. Like, they knew the movie was good, and they knew the movie was going to get a lot of attention. That's why they were comparing it to The Lion King in its, PR releases, because they knew from test audiences that they were responding really well to it. But then it became the biggest thing ever. It's the most financially successful animated film of all time. It is the only animated film on the list of top 10 highest grossing films of all time. It is to this day the best-selling Blu-ray disc ever. For the first time in 50 years, Barbie was unseated as the best-selling doll by guess who?
Elsa.
Wow.
This wasn't just, it was bigger than they thought. No, it was the biggest thing in the world. And it is probably, Bob Iger referred to it as one of their top 5 franchises. And they did something unprecedented. They said, okay, we're going to make a full theatrical release sequel to one of our Disney Princess musical films. They've never done that before. Like, even thinking about what they're going to do, I'm like, how can this work? Because it sounds like it's going to crash and burn. But we're all going to.
Yeah, they've always relegated those to direct to video.
They just poured millions of more dollars into this franchise. It's got a Broadway show that's feeding the movie, that's feeding the Broadway show, that's feeding the sequel, that's feeding the animated shorts, that's feeding the merchandise sales. It's made unprecedented amounts of money. Like, this one film made unprecedented amounts of money for Disney, which, it's super feminist, so cool. But with that said, if somebody is going to do something, then it has to be this, right? If you're going to do something before 20 years from now, because I agree with you, like, it's going to be 20 years down the road probably before this happens. But if you weren't going to wait that long, then it has to be this, because this is the biggest moneymaker that Disney has right now. It's easily, Elsa's one of the most, probably the only under Mickey Mouse is the most recognizable Disney character. Everyone was her for Halloween. Everyone had her dolls. Everyone was singing that song over and over and over again. I still work in an area with kids where they abuse the Let It Go on the singing book.
Oh my god, it's been 5 years.
This thing is massive in a scale that you can't compare it to, because there's nothing else like it. So why not try something with it? And the thing is it has to be Disney, because DreamWorks isn't going to do it. Sony's not going to do it. It's like, I think about it like, at the Oscars when, Frances, I can never pronounce her last name.
Dormant.
Said, Meryl, stand up. If you stand up, everyone else will stand up. That's Disney. If Disney does it, then everyone else will do it. Because it's Disney. They're the biggest company on the planet. Even if Helen from Iowa and Susan from Georgia says, I'm going to ban Disney in my house and boycott it. Okay, well that means Disney, ABC, ESPN, now Fox, Star Wars, Marvel. You cannot boycott this company in a way that's going to make an effect unless every single person on the planet says, I'm no longer going to partake in Disney merchandise. There's no dent that you can make. So if you're going to make a gamble, why not do it with the $1 billion moneymaker? Everyone's going to go see this movie anyway. I understand, if you're, I get it, I do get it. It's just and I understand the fear, but it's this thing is so big, you almost have nothing to lose with it because of how much, because of everything that it already is.
I agree. It does have this kind of it's too big to fail. It's and even if someone, there's no way it's going to lose money. And if anything, if they do make Elsa gay, then even more people that may not have gone to see it, that weren't part of that demographic, would go out and see it because they're oh, this is a big cultural moment. And I 100% agree with that. But then, Black Panther had a gay storyline. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie.
I have.
But,
I have, yeah.
So everyone knows who Okoye is. She was going to have, in the comic books, there's a character that, I don't know if she's the exact character, if she's an inspiration from it. based on the Ta-Nehisi Coates comic book line of it, where she's gay, or at least her counterpart is gay. And they had an actual scene. They filmed it, and they showed it to people of the press when they gave them a sneak peek, and they took it out. And they didn't make her gay, they made her straight, and they made her have a boyfriend. So it's kind of like, this movie already made $1 billion, and it's a Marvel movie. Marvel movies are always going to make money because it's the brand. It's Marvel. It's going to make money no matter what happens in it. And yet they still didn't do it. And it's not because the filmmakers didn't try or because the actors weren't game. It wasn't because the actual creatives didn't want to do this. It's simply because the corporation was like, no, why do this? They said no for whatever, they will never admit to it, but whatever the reason, they just didn't want to deal with this yet. And it's kind of like 100% agree, but if Black Panther, which came out this year, and Disney axed it, and this is a movie that's PG-13, it's for an older audience, it's not for kids, so you're not going to have crazy parents freaking out about it. If they didn't feel comfortable doing it for this movie, then how the heck are they going to feel comfortable doing it for Frozen that's coming out in a year?
And I agree. Like, realistically, it's not going to happen. But it's like the mentality, like being afraid of, for whatever reason, of doing it is what bothers me, because you literally have something that is never going to not make you money.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is frustrating. Like, it's the most frustrating thing, because it's like, you don't mind showing people violence, but then when it's two people expressing love, it's like people lose their minds. So it's like, it's the most frustrating thing.
Moms, or whatever the heck it is.
The 1 million moms, yeah, how they just go ape about that sort of
thing. According
to
HuffPo, they're more like 3,700 dudes on Twitter.
Oh, I would not be surprised.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that's not surprising.
Like, the Facebook comments on, like, any single story, or, like, you know, if, like, a sports team even, like, has, like, a pride night or whatever, it's like, oh, get back to the game. Don't, like, who cares?
They're
like, just
let
us have things.
Yeah. And, you know, when I was at Disney, you know, like 60% of the people who work at Disney, first of all, are queer in some way. And Disney is very supportive of that with their employees. I worked with a trans woman who they were 100% on, you know, they didn't give her any problems. They let her use the bathroom she wanted to use, let her wear the costume that she, for her gender, you know, let her use the name that, you know, was her name, etc. They were one of the first places down in Florida to be doing gay marriage, because I said, hey, Disney, you have all these packages. Can my husband and I get married? And they're like, yeah, sure. Why not? You know, and they have a Pride Day in Disney. But, you know, that just doesn't translate to things they're making. Like, they're saying, okay, all these people, you know, will allow this community in, to, you know, our den of money making, but we're not going to give back, is like what's frustrating.
Yeah.
Is that, you know, we're not going to make stories that you know, obviously anyone can identify with anyone, but it's like, we're not going to make stories where you see 100% of yourself. It's like, oh, I can kind of see myself in the metaphor, abstract idea of this character. Which is the frustrating part. And it's like, my other thing too, and my big hesitation with being like, just do it, just make her gay, is that, you know, there are kids out there, you know, who love Elsa and don't care, but their parents are going to. And they're going to take all of that away, right? They're going to say, throw out the Elsa doll, throw out the Elsa poster, no more Frozen. And now it's like, okay, I got what I wanted, but now someone else has lost something too. Mm-hmm. And, you know, there's a chance that kid maybe needed that character or that story more than me. So that's like the other hang up I have, is like, you know, should it be this big giant thing? Where, you know, everyone will see it and it will be the only thing anyone talks about for a year? Or should I just wait, as I have always waited, for something else to come along? Which is honestly going to probably be what we have to do.
I mean, again, it's not doom and gloom. I wanted to kind of emphasize that Disney's a really big corporation, and Marvel does its own thing. Star Wars is its own thing. The Disney animated features do their own thing. Like, yes, they're all under one banner, but this is such a big, there's just so many brackets within the whole umbrella that is Disney. For instance, like in Disney Channel, there's the show Andy Mack. I'm not keeping track of Disney Channel shows anymore, but apparently there's a show Andy Mack where they're actually going to explore sexuality in a storyline.
Yeah, I think they already have started. Like, the kid came out.
Yeah, so it's like, it's not like it's not doom and gloom. I think it's just, it's kind of like,
like slow and steady. Like,
yeah, and it's frustrating because it's like, really, like, why, it's so annoying. It's like and it's not even like a linear, and I also don't want people to think, oh, everything, it's this linear progression where everything gets better and better and better until we reach utopia. Because that's what's scary about future, and what history has taught us is that people move 10 steps forward and 10 steps back. Like, it's not always so pretty and neat, but I mean, that's life.
No, and I agree. And like, I understand the logical situation of where we are, versus the, fantasy of where we want to be. But that being said, all this, aside, there's really nothing stopping them. And even if, that's not what you intended for your characters, you also didn't intend anything, because she literally just, I honestly think she maybe talked to 2 other people who weren't Anna. And one of them was Olaf, so like, it doesn't count. So it's like, okay, you can't even, like you said, talking about how she intended her character and what she thought. I was like, well, you can't claim you intended anything because nothing happened. So, and now you've got this chance to explore this character because now she's in a much better mental place. I assume. I don't know. Who knows what happened between the first
God,
and second
if they make her go back inside whatever version of the closet she's in, I'm gonna be so sad.
Whatever.
Like I said, lady in the wings, woman in the wings.
Woman in the wings.
And I honestly can see them doing something like that, because they are introducing new characters. Kristen Bell confirmed there were new characters in the movie, and I could very much see that being the case, right? Like, oh, there's this new chick, and she's buddies with Elsa, and that's all we're gonna say about that.
Buddies, gal pals.
Like, okay, you know what? Fine. Like, I'll take what I can get. But at the end of the day, if you're not going to do the thing, then just let her be. Like, don't let her be with Noah. Let her just continue to do what she's doing, like, at least give me the hope that, in some version in my head or in my, reading of this character or my reality, that can be true. Like, don't throw some dude in there that ruins that ability, because there's no need. Like, there's literally no need. And there's almost even no need for her to, have any partner whatsoever.
Oh my god, what if it's like, oh, we need a king? Oh my god.
They're gonna do that, it's like...
Oh, I hate it.
It's like, Princess Diaries 2, Royal Engagement.
I hate it.
Like, you need a king, and it's like, cause that actually does come up for a hot second in the Broadway show. There's a joke made by, the Duke. He's like, oh, queen. That's how I imagine that's like how I see him talking. He's like, oh, what about, you having a king and stuff? And she like brushes him. She's like, oh, one thing at a time, and like brushes him off. So it came up for a hot, and there's a possibility that some things in there might hint at stuff that goes on in the sequel, because I know when Love Never Dies was happening, the sequel to Phantom of the Opera, they actually were rearranging some of their staging of the original Phantom of the Opera to basically tie into things that were happening in Love Never Dies. So, I don't know. Hoping not for that one.
I don't know, man. I just hope that something will happen someday. It's discouraging, I guess. It's like how Beatriz said, how, progress isn't linear, and like, historically, there have been points in time where gay people, etc., have been, very well integrated and accepted in society, but look at where we are now. We're, like, fighting an eternal fight to get some of that stuff back that we had, like, thousands of years ago. So, I don't know, man. It's weird, and I truly think that, representation is, really a good step in, like, getting society on board with this sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's like, if you see this character that, everybody loves, Elsa, for example, and she has a girlfriend, then, like, what are you gonna think when your daughter comes out, or your son comes out, etc.? Like, it's a good stepping stone. And I think that people who are able to show that might have a responsibility to show that. If you're not gonna be true to, like, what's in the world, then what's the point of saying anything,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, why come back for a sequel if you're not going to... I mean, and that was the thing with the first movie is that, it was, a lot of people saw it as representation for mental illness, representation for various things, which was intended. Like, that was maybe not one specific thing, but the idea was like, okay, everyone's going to see themselves in Elsa. And every downtrodden thing that you see about yourself is going to be basically a mirror in her.
Yeah. She's so vague.
Right. So vague. So, you did that on purpose and you did that consciously. And that was a huge thing for a Disney movie. Like that was honestly almost like too complicated for a Disney movie. And I remember people were freaking out when Hans did the thing because everyone was like, that was super upsetting for my child. And I was like, well, that's life.
Yeah, people trying to murder other people. It happens.
Like, and that's literally what people were saying. They were like, that was upsetting for my kid. And everyone was like, well, also the whole love at first sight thing is like super dangerous, and that's basically what it was trying to say. So your kid's gonna have to learn not to, kiss
if you're gonna claim that your kid was upset because of that, go back to like Cinderella or Snow White, etc. Like, what about those movies where like love at first sight is like the name of the game?
Yeah, or even like Gaston being like the most like praised, like manly, like person you'd think would be a love interest, and then having him be this awful person. Yeah. Like that's a key plot point of that movie. So
and that's the thing is these movies get progressively more self-aware the longer we go on. And this is probably the most self-aware Disney movie that there was because, for once somebody said, what? When somebody said, like, oh, I want to marry this guy I just met. I wouldn't. And that happened, and this whole reversal on the True Love's Kiss thing, because it's like, oh, it's going to be a kiss from Hans, and it's like, oh no, it's going to be Kristoff, and it's like, oh well, surprise, it's a little bit more complicated than that, and also that's not how love works. So it's like, okay, you consciously did these things at this point, and you said this is the story we're going to tell. It's not the story Disney normally tells. It also is kind of like pointing out the flaws in Disney's traditions and Disney's pasts.
Yeah, they seem to really like doing that for the past decade. Like, it's like the company itself seems to like being in on like their own self-awareness of subverting tropes they have established for decades.
But my thing with that is like, okay, that's what you did in the first film, so what are you going to do that's important in the second? Mm-hmm. Like, how do you top that instead of just trying to, like, because I do believe that all these people and all these creators have good intentions, and I don't think that the Robert Lopez and Kristen Anderson Lopez and Idina Menzel and Jennifer Lee and Chris Buck would come back just to make something that is meant to make money. Because if they wanted to do that, if that's what Disney wanted out of it, they would have done a direct-to-video sequel. They would have just kept feeding us Frozen shorts for the next 10 years. But no, they said, we're going to spend $110 million to make another one of these things. So there has to be a reason for it. There has to be an occasion for it. And that's what they said about the Broadway show. Robert Lopez said, like when we were talking about it, we said, we're not going to do this unless there's a reason to do it. And their reason to do it was basically because they wanted to give Elsa more screen time, because they were like, we can go into, like all of her stuff is internalized in the film. We don't get to see it. We don't get to hear it because we just kind of like see it on her face. Kristen Anderson Lopez referred to it as eyebrows, that animated characters express things through their eyebrows.
Everybody expresses things through their eyebrows.
So their songs were the eyebrows. Because you can't do that on stage. Like, you can't make facial stuff. So they were like, we're going to do all of Elsa's thoughts now that she was having throughout the film in the form of like 8 new solos.
Elsa makeup tutorial. Let's delve into her mental problems. Step 1
was what they went and did. And supposedly they did a pretty good job of it. It's gotten some better reviews than what I was expecting. And they apparently made it, Disney realized that evidently 70% of the people who go to their Broadway shows are couples without kids. So they were like, all right, they made it more adult, essentially. So To the point where people were saying it was almost too dark, I think, and they had to pull.
Oh yeah, that sounds great.
Payback for not getting the Hunchback musical.
Oh my god, the Hunchback musical. But yeah, like that was one of the early reviews. They were like, this is really dark, so they pulled it back a little bit. But, so yeah, like that's the thing. It's like I'm hoping that you've got something up your sleeve. If it's not what I want, at least hopefully it's something as powerful as, the first time we did this.
It's gonna be like Finding Dory, where like there was like a split second of two women pushing a baby.
Look at those women shopping for strudel in the market. Anyway, back to the
plot. Hashtag Woman in the Wings.
Hashtag Woman in the Wings.
Whenever it comes out.
It's gonna be, if it's anything, it's gonna be off screen. But
it's gonna be like a really gender neutral name. Like
Charlie.
Scandinavian gender neutral name.
Yeah, we need to look up Scandinavian gender neutral names and write a fanfic about this.
Yes, we'll just have to live on in fanfic. Which, by the way, fun fact, her name, I'm going with Cassie, that's how I say it in my head. Cassie Levy and Patty Murrin, who plays Anna, were saying that, like, to like, research their characters, they were like, yeah, like, we spent a weekend and looked up their astrological signs, then we looked up fanfiction, and I was like,
no, oh my god, they did birth charts.
I was like, that probably wasn't the smartest thing you could have done for your own mental health, but, whatever.
There's some, I don't want to stay too long in this fanfic thing, but there is something to be said about the desperation of queer representation by the whole ship that is, Anna and Elsa.
Oh.
Whoa, what?
No, yeah, it's a thing.
I know that was a thing.
It's a big thing.
I understand what you're saying there too. And, yeah, it's frustrating. And that's what it is. It's like, she only talks to one person, so that's what they latched onto.
Yep. So we're gonna ship her with her sister.
As unfortunate as that is.
As a fan of the show and having a sister with, like, the same age difference as Anna and Elsa, I was like, stop, please stop.
Throw up in my mouth a little bit.
But yeah, there is a thesis to be written about that.
Yeah, like that's, but that's like, it speaks more to the desperation than it does.
Yeah. Our lack of queer representation will make fans turn to incest.
Think about that next time you're getting mad about family values.
Just look at Sailor Moon. That's legit what they did.
Oh my god.
I was never super into Sailor Moon. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not even sure what it is.
That's okay. You broke my heart, but that's okay.
Alright. Okay, so, consensus, I guess. What do we think we're gonna see in Frozen 2? Or not see in Frozen 2?
Woman in the Wings.
Woman in the Wings.
I'm going with it.
Alright, well, the hashtag Woman in the Wings, that's Sam's bet.
She's not gonna get a love interest. That is my bet.
No one. Okay.
I, don't even know the plot. Does anyone know the plot of this movie?
No one knows.
Okay.
No, I hope they told us they'd have to kill us.
Oh, okay.
Probably, I assume. Listen, NDAs are no joke. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
I'm gonna hope she develops, more time to be with her sister as an adult, because I feel like that's something that's really been missing from the first.
Don't say that after the discussion we just went through.
But, in a sister way.
Yeah, in a normal way.
The only way. Yeah, I honestly think it's very, very possible they're gonna do, one of those, little winks to the audience. She's gonna be with no one, but there's gonna be.
That's what I'm saying. Woman in the Wings, bro. Yes. She's just gonna be there.
Woman in the Wings. She's there somewhere.
They're just gonna, share a look, and it's gonna be
And the internet is just. And the million moms are just...
what does that look mean? Remove eyeballs from the gaze.
Helen from Iowa.
So they won't look at each other.
So yeah.
Anyway.
This is a complicated issue. The fact that it's an issue period is frustrating, but it is good that we're having these conversations, and it is good that basically, GLAAD said, Disney, you suck. And, people said, Disney, if you're listening to us, this is how you can not suck. In our eyes, essentially. So, it'll be interesting to see if anything comes of this. if anything, this entire exercise of Frozen has been a massive anomaly in the world of animation and entertainment media. You know, because it made a crap ton of money and continues to, and did all sorts of things that Disney has never done before.
What if Wreck-It Ralph 2 has a gay character?
I would love that.
What if Wreck-It Ralph 2 like shows shipping culture online?
Oh my god!
That would be brilliant. Give us the gay Disney princess ships. Give it to us.
Don't need to know about it, all right? If we're picking things that kids don't need to know about shipping.
No, but you know those gifs about like the Disney princesses and like they're in like the gifts and they're like they edited them to be with it like that they're like each other's love interest.
Yeah.
How cool?
Yeah,
like, how
those
cool
are
could it
good.
be that like what if like what if Ralph just like walks into a gif and it's just a continuous motion where they just keep having the same moment again and he's all confused. That would be brilliant. Oh, there's so much there. I'm so excited for that movie.
So the point is that
the
Disney
subtitle
should
of the
hire
movie.
us to write their sequel.
Yes.
Basically. Basically.
Us with no credentials, but lots of ideas.
Exactly.
Ideas, the best credentials you could have.
Yeah.
Yes. Alright, so any last thoughts here on this? Anything you didn't get to say or?
Give Elsa a cat.
Oops, okay.
There's one.
Give Elsa a cat.
Give Elsa a cat. If nothing else, give her, but she won't hurt the cat. She's like got it down. No.
Look,
Oh my
give
god,
her
they
the
probably couldn't
cat
have pets
and-
because like she'd kill them.
Oh.
No, I mean, no, okay, give her a
Really
cat.
unfortunate.
Oh man, give her a husky. Give her a dog, like a snow dog. That would be so cute.
She'd
And you
ride
know-
the fjords on her sled.
Just give her like any like wink wink nudge nudge to being gay, like big
Elsa, you
dogs,
gotta
cats.
do that.
Big
Brought in by your
dogs are
new female
another
friend.
indicator.
Oh, the woman in the wings has a dog.
Oh my god, okay, you know those like rom-com moments where like someone's walking their dog, but the dog's too big and strong, so they like run off and they like they tackle a person to the ground and start licking their face.
Ooh.
What if the woman is like walking her husky and then
licks Elsa's
suddenly
face?
and then suddenly he tackles Elsa to the ground and starts licking
Her
her
was like,
face.
oh my god, the queen.
Exactly, and the guards are like, we need to kill this dog, and then Elsa's like, stop, and uses her powers, and I just think that I need
Honestly-
to write a Frozen book, and they should pay me for it. I'm just saying.
That's like a good credits moment.
Essentially,
They
should
look at
pay
each
us for all
other.
the fic that we've ever written about anything ever.
They look at each other after this dog like barrels into Elsa, and it's like. Then they smile at each other, and bam, credits. Can't say anything about that in 1 million
Ends
moms.
up happening in the movie. Someone's gonna be sniping us from the top of a roof. By the way, whoever Disney spy is listening.
Disney, I don't have any affiliation with you other than Mel working there at some point.
Disney, if you're listening, please hire me to write a Star Wars book. I'm just throwing that out
Did
there.
you get that from my Twitter? I tweeted that like 2 days ago.
Oh,
I
did
literally
you?
tweeted,
No, I
my
didn't.
life goal is to be asked to author a canon Star Wars novel.
Same. Well, yeah, same.
It's
Same
insane.
thing. I don't know if I want graphic novel or if I want an actual novel, though. I haven't made up my mind.
Well, we've probably got some time to think about it.
It's
So,
gonna happen.
essentially, these are our think thoughts and the state of the gay union.
The Gay Union! This is our spin-off podcast. There you go.
The gay union.
I like it.
This particular topic of Elsa and her ambiguous, non-existent sexuality. Find out all the info on this podcast at overlyanimated.com. Join us on Discord to text chat about animation at overlyanimated.com/Discord. Support us via Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to all our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Jamie, aka Mailman. You get to be the gay podcast patron. Good for you. And as always, thank you to our Patreon executive producers, John, Ryan, Steve, Alex, Andy, and Hugh. Is there anything anyone else wants to plug for the good of the group?
My YouTube channel, Be Real Movie Channel on YouTube. There's gonna be a lot of content coming up from South by Southwest, if anyone's interested.
Cool.
I am interested.
You should buy my book when it comes out. But we'll get that when it comes out. Yeah, so if we're all good, then thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time. Au revoir.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.